The hoax of Taygetean and Swaruunian disclosure. True wisdom comes after discovering the underlying reasons for a hoax and why we once believed a fiction. In addition, we have a duty to prevent other human beings from becoming trapped, particularly those who come into the world after us. Freedom tastes best when we know it is shared by other brothers and sisters in the world. I am motivated to this work when I see a world harboring liars in black robes who, knowing all too well the errors in their Bible, mock reason and continue year after year to deliberately deceive their congregations. These worshippers of mammon are deaf to the cries of mankind for true succor and spiritual enrichment. Michael Tsarian. Introduction. This information is to report the hoax of the Taygetean and Swaruunian disclosure deployed in many social media channels and mainly in the YouTube channels of Despojando Enigmas, Cosmic Agency, and additional associated channels. And more than a report, this writing is a warning to the followers who still maintain their blindness to the brutal evidence that it is all an experiment commissioned by the Cabal in association with very dark archontic entities sheltered in an egregore of enormous dimensions that feeds on the lush energy distilled by all involved, both the managers of the channels and the followers who work consciously or unconsciously for these entities that manipulate them and keep them entangled in the lies and fraud of non-existent extraterrestrial contact and Taygetean and Swaruunian disclosure. Everything was fake from the beginning. A great game of social engineering by the Cabal that needed to find a way to reconfine the awakened ones who were leaving the Matrix and those who were beginning to awaken and, on the other hand, feed the regressive entities that are collaborating in the deception. And what better form of confinement than the illusory creation of another matrix, the Tayflix? This name is not mine, but rather that of one of the followers who was aware of the hoax before me, in which to retain and distract them indefinitely. With the egregore that the Cabal has been able to create through the manipulated followers and their blindness, the control of false contact and false disclosure is held by the interdimensional entities that feed off the dense energy that the followers generate with the worship of those regressive entities posing as Mari Swaru, Yaji, and other sidereal demonic entities. Fundamentals. Before I begin, I have to intone la mea culpa and say that I was a follower of disclosure from almost the beginning and believed that everything was real. It is true that it helped me to see and expand my consciousness, and I learned many things. But when the supposed breakdown of contact happened back in March or early April 2022, I began to glimpse the lie. Not that all the information could be false, but the real information was wrapped in many lies in such a way that everything seemed real. And it was precisely the evolution or expansion of my consciousness that helped me to see the falsity of the contact and therefore to begin to doubt the information that was given. And I thought it was real so much that I even made videos on YouTube defending the managers of the main channels against the attacks they suffered when they were accused of being fakes. But now I'm very clear about it with everything I know and what I've discovered for myself. These managers are an active part of the fraud, either by collusion or omission, and they are also victims of the archontic entities that control them. Just take a look at the physical deterioration of such people who perceive themselves as consumed and prematurely aged. And I'm not going to go into detail about the reasons why these people aren't able to raise their hands and open up to their audience. They continue with their charade, which gives them away. It is obvious that I can no longer follow a falsehood. I've developed a certain ability to flatly reject their videos and messages. I'm intolerant of their lies and I can't stand more than a minute watching and listening to their videos, especially those of one of them. They are no longer the same people who started this project because they are completely parasitized by these dark entities. You only have to listen sometimes to the expletives, the bad manners, the censorship, and the lack of respect that they sometimes use in their videos, showing that, despite the 6 years of disclosure, they have not learned anything and are not spiritual at all. I feel a real pity for the followers who are not able to see how deceptive it all is and remain engrossed and mind-controlled by a disclosure that is more siren songs and MK Ultra conditioning than true disclosure. The more they are told that alleged aliens should not be worshipped as gods, the more followers do so. Some evidence of fraud. The Cosmic Tayflix. Season 1, Prologue. The evidence of the fakeness of the contact is overwhelming for those who want to see it. The inconsistencies, the contradictions of the information are overwhelming. No matter how detailed the information may be, it cannot at any time be contradictory. What was valid at one time with the AI, archontic intelligence, called Swaru of Era, turns out to be contrary to what the supposed Yaji, AI version 2.0, or the supposed Athena, AI version 3.0, or the supposed Mari Minerva, the updated AI version 4.0, say now. There is a Sibylline operation of discrediting the information of the original Swari, AI version 1.0, and of Aneeka herself, AI version 1.5, by the new components, and no one seems to have noticed. The new members of the Taygetean team argued that Swaru and Aneeka did not know how to measure the impact of not having controlled the information they gave at the time. In this way, they would make followers think that Mari Minerva Swaru would do much better and thus gain their trust. Where's the true love and spirituality of the Taygeteans and Swaruunians who lash out at the original Swaru in such a humiliating way? Where's the insight and spirituality of the managers of the informative channels, and where is that of the die-hard followers not to notice the small, but enlightening detail? Insight and intelligence none. In fact, they are still there precisely because of their low intelligence. The previous and supposed contacts who were smarter than them realized the deception and ran away or were expelled because they were a danger to the ground controllers of the disclosure, lest they dismantle the buoyant business. Season 3, Episode 2. Soon after starting the TV series, they realized that the original Swaru was too close to the people and her information was more empowering than calculated, so it was time to introduce a new character that would displace Swaru. But whose character would make the audience fall in love while they were plotting a way to eliminate the original Swaru? So, the demon Yaji appeared, coming from another timeline with her starship Suzy. Swaru's ending had to be extraordinarily spiritual and metaphysical, so the unimaginative writers pulled Star Wars to mimic Yoda's disappearance. And so, they did. Yaji's energy was so powerful that it ended up consuming poor Swaru, who had stopped eating and had sunk into a state of deep depression. Thus, the AI version 2.0 was installed on top of the remains of the AI version 1.0 and Swaru dissolved into the ether as Yoda did. Now the AI version 2.0 would absorb the experiences and files generated by the old version, and people would believe that Yaji would have the same soul as Swaru. Since these are archontic entities, the archontic entity of Swaru would be parasitized by the archontic entity of Yaji, and the Tayflix would follow with new actors and scripts. Season 5, Episode 4. The disclosure control policy took on a different aspect precisely when contact was lost back in April 2022. This is a curious and suspicious date because it was a month and a half after the beginning of the Russia-Ukraine war. I firmly believe that the control of the disclosure passed from one side to the other and a new script was rethought for the disclosure of the new season of Tayflix where old characters, such as the avatar of Aneeka, had to disappear and insert new ones, such as Mari, Athena, Zoel, Arian, etc., in order to direct the disclosure in other directions and dismantle the old one to confuse, even more so, the followers and control them mentally and emotionally. Between episodes 4 and 11 something happened that the Tayflix writers did not count on. The uprising of Estella and Christina revealing the falsehood of the disclosure with the innumerable evidence they presented of said falsehood. The cabal had been discovered. They didn't count on the fact that the intelligence of these two girls would jeopardize the entire PSYOP operation. They had to counterattack, and they mounted an assault and discredit operation against Estella and Christina, to which I ignorantly joined. From here I ask your forgiveness and thank you for your vision that helped me realize the ignominy of disclosure. Episode 11. Curiously, no one questioned Aneeka's manner of dying. The followers were not able to think that, with her technological and spiritual ability, if Aneeka had been truly ill, She could have returned to her homeland to recover and spend 200 years there, and then return to Earth 5 minutes after she had departed with the supraluminary travels of the Tolika. In short, what is valid for some things is not valid for others. Season 6, Episode 1. In the first episodes of the new season of this cosmic Tayflix, the new addition to the stellar television series, Mari Minerva Swaru told us on her brand new YouTube channel her fantastic story. According to the Tayflix script, her childhood was spent on Earth with her mother, Swaru 10, and they were both extraterrestrials living an earthly experience. And it turns out that they were living on Earth for a few years. Mari had psychological problems due to being a misfit, and her mother worked as a martial arts teacher and personal trainer. I don't want to dwell on this incredible and fanciful story where they once again contradict each other in a brutal way. It seems that they never had the ill of the extraterrestrial at all. According to the official Taygetean version, the extraterrestrials without exception have, when they descend, step down to the Earth, whose density is much lower than what they are used to. In short, the rules that once worked with the arrival of the new Tayflix seasons are no longer inconvenient. Despite the evidence, people believed everything at face value. Episode 10. Nor did anyone realize that Mari's image on the covers of her videos is a creation of AI and does not correspond to a real person, not to mention the glasses with which she appears, which, even the less experienced, can look up on the internet and see that they are from a well-known terrestrial brand. However, what alien needs to wear glasses? Do they really need them to make the UV filter so that the ground monitors don't hurt them? No comment. The fact that the Cabal used AI this time to generate Mari's avatar was because they couldn't risk using a real Ukrainian porn model to use her image because they could be discovered, as happened with Aneeka. See my video on the description. Episode 20. And finally, as an example of the cosmic lies of disclosure, suddenly, the Atorthans appear, but according to the Swaroonians on duty, they have always been there with the Federation, and they have always played a very important role in the evolution of the Earth and the cosmic events of all disclosure. Well, as far as I can remember, this alien race, if it exists, had never been mentioned in the public. Swaru of Era never mentioned them, not even Yaji. What does the Cabal intend with this story and this new race? It is clearly a new distraction and an excuse to divert attention from the supposed and regressive Federation to the other side. Direct extraterrestrial channels and removal of the old ones. But, despite the evidence and the ridiculousness of, for example, the causes of the death of Aneeka de Temer, which occurred in episode 8 of season 5, the followers believed everything and honored the deceased Taygetean, feeding the egregore that was beginning to grow in disclosure. Furthermore, the followers, in their ignorance and mind control, did not realize that the reason for the creation of the Mari Swaru and Zal channels directly by the aliens, terrestrial controllers of the Cabal and their archontic entities, was to eliminate the original channels and their managers. Why did they want intermediaries if the aliens could do it directly? And now that most fans have signed up for the new channels, the hours of despejando enigmas and cosmic agency are numbered. In fact, they are now just awful commenting on what Mari and Zal put out in their channels, which on the other hand are rehashes of previous ones with pink bows. By the way, the channels are monetized and managed by a well-known Mexican follower and moderator. Very extraterrestrial all. We'll talk about monetization later. Those responsible for the old channels, in their agonizing moments and trying to prevent them from falling into the precipice of oblivion and ridicule, continue with their hackneyed and smelly repetitions, with the comments of what Mari Swaru and Zal publishes and with their burnt conversations, repeating them ad nauseum because they have neither new information nor have contact with the terrestrial controllers of the Cabal with their brand new AI version 4.0. At this point, I dare to include, with your permission, something that a good friend and former follower told me very aptly, and that could serve as a plot synopsis of this macro series called Tayflix. We have all been attracted to disclosure, thanks to the fictional protagonist Swaru de Era. Its function was to attract people by collecting spiritual texts from different sources. Now if you look at it, you will realize that already in 2018 it contradicted itself, because its information was not from itself, but copied from various sources, and sometimes these sources do not match. In those times, with our illusions and hopes, we didn't realize it. Already when Swaruunian entered is when many of us began to doubt. Many left only that many of them still believe that Eras is the real one and have the hope that she will return, while she was the little cheese of the trap. Many of the followers were very religious before the disclosure, and when they resonated with the disclosure at first, they left their religion and made the disclosure their new one. Others seem to be writing to you from an insane asylum. Already after 6 years that fanatical followers didn't realize it, it's been a long time since they think if they are indeed Matrix people. Many of us have fallen into the cosmic influence, but we have opened our eyes in time. Others have not only failed to open their eyes, but have fallen into the new Swaruunian religion created by the Taygetean and Swaruunian demons themselves, and the Cabal's earth controllers and their dark lords. A religion in which fervent and deranged followers place their hopes to be freed from evil. Their new messiah is Mari Swaru, who will come to save the world, while most of the followers pray to be extracted, to be saved by a third party, erasing from their minds that the only saviors are themselves. Many are already parasitized by regressive entities posing as Yaji or Mari. This is not new and at least started after the breakdown of contact in March 2022. There were many people who believed themselves to be contacted telepathically by the Taygeteans and Swaruunians, and when you analyzed their conversations, you realized that the contact was with very regressive entities that laughed at the hands of the parasites. Now it is the same with many of the followers whose faces are glimpsed by a shadow of darkness that takes control of their essences. More distraction. At this point, it is worth asking why so much effort on the part of the Cabal in this global cinematographic superproduction called Tayflix, in which they have developed a plot where the bad guys become accomplices or hide behind a federation that is neither good nor bad, but is only as Era's Swaru AI tells us. In this plot, new characters appear as if out of nowhere and others disappear and show us the interior of a fake Tolika as if it were a shopping mall. And the main reason for the intervention and control of these channels by the Cabal and the elites, and in general the control of everything that has to do with the UFO issue and spirituality, is to deprive the human who begins to wake up and realize the reality of the planet and what is being done on it, of the knowledge of the truth, and prevent him from attaining his full spiritual power and discovering the power that he has in his hands. What they're doing is deceiving the public by generating more distraction, controlling their minds, and creating the illusion that they are coming out of a matrix and throwing off the shackles that kept them slaves for millennia. And yes, you're coming out of an ancient matrix, but you're entering a controlled one that's completely shiny and new, and with the shackles even brighter and more powerful. Nothing is out of his control as long as the human does not realize that the power is in him, and that if he is a slave, it is because the human consents. And as Michael Tsarian says, true wisdom and expansion of consciousness comes after discovering the underlying reasons for deception and why we once believed the fiction of Tayflix. Moreover, those of us who know this lie have a duty to prevent other human beings from becoming trapped, particularly those who come into the world after us. And this is the reason for this complaint. Monetization of new channels. Another point to analyze easily without having to be an engineer or astronaut and just apply common sense is the issue of donations and monetization of the extraterrestrial channels of Mari Swaru and Zal. If you invest $1 million or euros in creating a super production, you can expect to receive something more than the results of putting humans in another matrix. Obviously, this is yet another point for all the alarm bells to ring, and yet blinded followers see it as normal. But what really happens to the monetization and donations of Mari Swaru and Zal's channels? Do we really need to ask this? Is it that no one attended the first classes of extraterrestrial life taught by Swaru era, ChatGPT version 1.0? Is no one capable of thinking that these supposed beings with 850,000 years of technological and spiritual advancement do not need money and that they do not even know what that is? So, can anyone believe that they use the donations, for which Mari Swaru is so grateful, To survive in orbit? Please open your eyes. Here it is not worth continuing to talk about the subject or adding more to what some former followers and contactees have said about it. And followers who believe that the money goes to Taygetean and can buy a Burger King or McDonald's in the restaurant of the International Space Station, ISS, or who go down to Earth to buy in organic markets. It's just that they haven't learned anything. It is a monumental joke on the part of the cabal that laughs loudly and mocks the followers who are gradually losing their intelligence and are giving up their power to these entities. As we have said before, the money monetized by the channels and the money from donations will most likely be used to pay for the terrestrial network that sustains the hoax of the disclosure or to pay the cabal minions and the managers of the original channels. Although one might very well think that the latter are ignorant enough to be useful idiots working for the CIA or more likely for a Russian or Ukrainian agency, unknowingly and for free. One spiritually advanced would not judge the others, but I would go so far as to say that one of them is the boss of the other. The latter is a true cosmic ignorant and ill-mannered star. No. The followers who continue to worship Mari Swaru and light candles for her have learned nothing and continue to give up their power and their lush energy to very regressive archontic entities that already control their lives because the followers have given their permission and signed an energetic contract with these entities consciously or unconsciously. New channels in the slipstream of money. Meanwhile, many of the followers who are or have been moderators of the main channels of disclosure, in collusion or connivance, are accomplices of the fraud and the lie of disclosure and have wanted to join the Me Too scam in order to continue extorting money from the followers abducted by the cult and lies of Mari and Zael, whose priests, the managers of the YouTube channels, cement the big lie with the spread of the seasoned fallacies of Mari and Zael. In this way, these moderators have created their own channels because they have seen the number of followers abducted by the false disclosure and the vein that this business opportunity provides them. More lies. The Federation. Another big lie that no one has stopped to debunk. The Federation has always been a wild card to hide the true physiognomy of the Taygeteans and Swaruunians of recent years. The Federation has been the perfect parapet to hide the misdeeds of the cabal in which the false Taygeteans and Swaruunians hide. If you have something different to focus the attention of the followers, they will never put the attention on you. The Federation is neither good nor bad, it just is, they began by saying. Then the Federation became regressive because it was permissive, and now the Galactic Federation, which was never called that, because it was incorrect according to the Swaruunians and for which Despojando Enigmas loaded the ink on the disseminators of the competition for calling it that, is a nest of snakes and reptiles that have enclosed the planet Earth. And that's what it really is, even though they call it a federation and make us believe that it's full of positive races like Andromedans, Arcturians, Taygeteans, and hundreds of races that we don't know for sure if they really exist. The only thing that is certain is that, if it exists, this federation is an egregore created thanks to the followers who have been manipulated and have made videos to ask it to stop acting so Machiavellian and, in this way, they have managed to direct their energy and creative attention towards that object. Now the Federation is nothing more than a corporation of dark entities working together with the Earth Cabal to enslave humanity. And this corporation and the Cabal, being one and the same, are the ones who handle the disclosure with their archontic intelligence masquerading as Taygeteans and Swaruunians. Sure, the AI has the knowledge, but it's taken from Earth and in any case some information from the original Swaru, if it ever existed. Interdimensional entities controlling disclosure. Global parasitization. As is evident from the above, the mind control over the followers and adepts of the disclosure, due to the more or less powerful interference of these archontic entities, is so great that almost everyone believes that Yaji or Mari contacts them directly and speaks to them. They do not realize that they're being parasitized by these entities and that the so-called Swaruunians are only the veil behind which they hide. The egregore of disclosure. Satanic cult and population control. And not only has the egregore of the Federation been created, but also the disclosure itself is an egregore that feeds on all the attention that the followers put on it every day. This egregore absorbs their energy and becomes more and more powerful and conscious. We can already say that disclosure, without many followers being aware of it, has become a sect where they are controlled and squeezed not only energetically, but also economically. The followers don't see it because their control is so strong. Only those who are able to break the link that binds them to the regressive entities will be able to realize where they are getting into. And I am aware that this message will not get very far, as the followers do not want to hear the truth that will shatter the illusion that the benevolent races will save their lives from the horror that is lived on Earth, or extract them because they are star seeds or family of the extraterrestrials that are in the orbits of the Earth, without realizing that they are falling into the determinism that their Messiah Swaru AI version 1.0 spoke of so many times. Open warfare between channels. And to make matters worse, and to gather more lush energy, a pitched battle has now been waged between the different ufological and spiritual channels that are fighting. One side to dismantle the Taygetean and Swaruunian disclosure, and the other to defend it tooth and nail. In this war, everyone loses except those who are on the side of the cabal and their masters, the archontic entities. Conclusion. Contrary to what might be expected, the outreach, which was intended to open people's eyes, spiritualize, and empower them, has only achieved, in a calculated way, is to keep the followers in victim mode and dependent on a superior force or external help, although in an evil way they have urged the follower to believe only in himself. However, they have inserted into their minds a program that prevents them from seeing the true nature of disclosure and reality, putting them in a continuous loop of interference, contradiction, and manipulation. These groups have been inoculated with the idea that they have the truth and have proclaimed themselves defenders of good, when in fact they are serving very powerful parasitic archontic entities working together with the cabal, while the Taygetean and Swaruunian channels of disclosure are mere tools to generate huge amounts of lush for these entities. Therefore, I urge followers to abandon disclosure and look within themselves, for therein lies the true salvation of each one. Seek to perform your soul activation as you are a fractal of the original source and have all the power to destroy those archontic entities that now threaten you. I'll leave you with this sentence to finish. I recommend you never follow any guru, teacher, spiritual guide, religion, or God, because idolatry leads you to fanaticism and generates dependencies. And because the moment you follow someone, you deprive yourself of freedom, you lose your power, and you stop recognizing who you really are. Marcus Witt.